Next, let's talk terrain. Of course, one of the big changes in Trials Evo is the outdoor environment, and the designers at RedLynx have created a nice big world with all kinds of areas for you to build in. But sometimes you need a hill, a hole, a bump, a ditch, or a road where there isn't one. Guess what? There's a tool for that. Start by opening the new object menu and scrolling over to the environment category. The first subheading is terrain modification, and it only contains one tool, the terrain shaping tool. Spawn one of these in the editor and make sure you have a clear view of the ground so you can check out what it does. We will of course start by checking out its properties. First is the category. This determines what the terrain mod is doing. A few of the categories only affect the texture decal on the terrain. These are surface, driving line, and road and path. The rest will also change the formation of the terrain to create ditches, hills, or ramps, just to name a few. You will notice as you change the category, the second property, decal, will have a different number of options. For categories that only change the texture, each decal will just be the different textures you can use. But for the categories that also adjust shaping, there will be different shaping variations with each option as well. When using the tool to shape the terrain, you can also choose to use the terrain's original texture by unchecking the decal checkbox. The colorize option will bring up a color picker you can use to change the color of your decal, and alpha will adjust the transparency of the decal. Finally, with the clear foliage checkbox selected, any grass, bushes, or trees that are within the area affected by the shaping tool will be automatically removed. Now we've covered the terrain shaping tool's properties, but we're still not done. There are a few more important features to look at. First, there are 3 states to choose from when manipulating the tool in the editor. These states can be changed by pressing the RB button. First, we have rotation. This mode is identified by the big red circle that appears around the shaping tool icon. In this mode, you can use the left and right triggers to rotate the shaping tool. You can also use the analog sticks to move it around and R3 to snap it to the driving line. Next is scaling. This has a blue and red line protruding from the icon representing the 2 dimensions you can scale, X and Z. You can use the left and right triggers to scale both dimensions equally. Left trigger scales down, right trigger scales up. Or you can use the right analog stick to scale each dimension individually. Left and right scales the X axis, up and down scales the Z axis. R3 in this mode resets the size of the X and Z axis to their default. The last mode is height, and it is represented by the green line coming out of the top of the icon representing the Y-axis. In this mode, you can use the left and right triggers to scale the height. This mode of course has no effect if you are working with one of the texture only categories. One thing to note is that the height will scale differently depending on which category you have selected. So for example, if you're working with a hill, right trigger will make the hill larger, but if you're working with a hole, right trigger will make the hole deeper. When working with height, R3 will reset the tool to its default height. The last thing we need to cover is layering. Sometimes you may want to have multiple shaping tools in the same area. Say for example you create a hill to drive over, but you also want to place a driving line texture to show the rider where he's going. When placing terrain tools, the layering of the texture decals is decided by the height of the icon. So for our example, we will place the icon of the shaping tool that is making the driving line above the icon of the hill shaping tool. One thing to remember when working with the terrain tool is that when adjusting many of the settings, the texture and terrain will not visually update while you are making adjustments. Only once you've stopped making changes for a moment will you see the results.